What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's video, we're gonna be back to work on the off-road mini quad finally, and I'm really hoping by the end of today's video we can actually finally take this thing for its first test drives and all that. So if you haven't seen the other two videos I did on this thing, I think I did 2 videos, maybe 3, I'm not really too sure. But we ended up picking up this ATV quad frame for about $100 with no engine in it, basically just kind of as you see it, missing the seat and a couple small things. And then we ended up working away, swapping in a Honda GX200, converting this thing to a 6.5 horsepower motor, and then kind of doing all the little components around it like intake, torque converter, and now we're just kind of doing the final last little bits on this thing. Really, the biggest thing we really need to do is get the rear sprocket swapped on this thing. I've been trying to figure out how to actually take this whole axle apart, and I finally figured it out after doing some research and just kind of messing around with it, trying to take it apart with some tools, and I didn't have the right tools, so I had to end up trying to find them, and finally borrowed a big open-end wrench. So this ended up doing the job, getting these 2 little nuts loose right there. So this axle is just kind of a little weird compared to the normal ATVs. Normally these nuts kind of just slip right over this tube, and as you can tell, this tube is about the same size as these nuts. But once I loosened those nuts up, it freed up this sleeve right there. So this seems to just be like some sort of little cover or sleeve kind of over the axle. So once we actually pull the wheel and the hub off of there, we should be able to slip that sleeve off, get those nuts off, and push the whole axle out. Get the sprocket changed on that thing, and I think I might have a sprocket we can actually swap onto that thing. I just have to pull it all apart and actually measure it all up, maybe even try testing it on there. Maybe we can just try to drill it out maybe a little bit, or figure a way to kind of adapt it. But if anything, I can get it all apart for right now and then measure it all up, maybe order up a sprocket if I need to, and then kind of work on the rest of the little things we need to do, like finish up the intake setup, and I also want to finish up the exhaust since we kind of just got it dumping straight at the shock there. And then just kind of do a whole good overview on this thing, make sure everything is tight and kind of there, because the more I'm looking at it, I keep forgetting. I only have like a couple wheel nuts pretty much on each wheel. I think this side only has 2, yeah, 2, and I think that one has 2 as well. So I need to get some nuts and bolts for this thing, just make sure it's 100% finalized, get everything all bolted up and together before the first test drive, before this thing falls apart underneath me. But for right now, let's get to work on it. I'm gonna start tearing apart this axle and just see what we can get done, and hopefully get a sprocket swapped onto it and finally get a chain put up on it. Maybe take it for its first test drive at the end of today's video. So catch you guys here in a little bit and see if we'll get knocked out. So you guys just saw in that time lapse, I got the axle ripped out of the off-road ATV, and it actually came out super smooth. I was expected to sit here and fight this thing for like 30 minutes, an hour. It actually came out in probably 5 minutes. And I think it was like a 15-second time lapse, so it really didn't take that long at all. Once you actually got the hub and wheel off of there, get the sleeve off of there, you get the 2 big nuts off, really just kind of hit it with a rubber mallet just to kind of break it away from the bearings and the brake disc there, and it slipped right out. So now we're able to pull off the old existing sprocket that's just kind of on like a little 4-bolt adapter right there. And then I have this sprocket I actually took off of the $100 mini bike over there when we did upgrade sprocket on that. And this actually is going to work out perfectly because this inner diameter is literally the same exact thing as this adapter there. You can tell the bolt hole is a little bit different. It's definitely a lot bigger, but I think once we actually pull this sprocket off this adapter, we can kind of just mark the holes onto this new sprocket, drill some new holes into this thing, bolt it right up, and slip everything all back together, and she should be good to go. So I'm gonna end up knocking that out real quick, and then I'll show you guys that before we install it all back together, and then hopefully get a chain slapped up on this thing, and pretty much almost be finished up. All right, so after drilling some holes and making a bunch of shavings all over the floor there, finally got the new sprocket all bolted up onto the little adapter there. So just re-drilled the holes, sent the bolts back in, tightened it all back up. So now we're finally able to put this all back together. So I'm gonna knock this all out real quick, get it all back together, maybe slap up a chain real quick, and then I'll catch up with you guys once we're all finished up, and then we can actually start working on the last little bits. So the intake and the exhaust, that's all that's really left. Do a bolt check, and this thing's all finished up. So let's get this thing knocked out and I'll catch up with you guys here in a little bit. What's up, guys? So it's actually the next day. I think last I left off talking with you guys, I just installed the new sprocket onto the axle and had it all kind of blown apart still. And after that clip, I kind of just put the camera away and just got to work on this thing, got as much done as I could as possible, and basically finished it up at this point. So as you can tell right now, that the rear axle is all put back in there. We got the new sprocket all swapped up on it, even put a new chain on it, got it on tensioners and a little roller up on the top there, got it all tensioned up, so we're all good to go there. Got the caliper all lined up as well, had to do a little bit more spacing to it, make sure it's all centered and all that. So all the rear end is perfect to go there. And then after that, I kind of just went over this thing, made sure everything was all tight, and kind of just looked at all the bolts I was kind of missing. I was missing a lot of the wheel bolts. I think each wheel had like 2 on there, so I picked up some more of those, got those installed. I even installed some bolts on the seat because the seat was never bolted on, so that's all good to go there. And then I just started finishing up all the little small stuff like the intake and exhaust. So the exhaust, I really just kind of chopped it down just a little bit more, so now it kind of shoots straight out in between the shock and the frame there, so it shouldn't have any problems melting anything. And then I got a little intake kind of snorkel kit installed up on this thing, same kind of setup as all my other projects over here, just kind of like some pipe going from my 3D printed adapter on the carb here, going all the way up to another little adapter to the filter, and then I kind of just got it zip tied in place. I left it super long, just kind of in rough kind of temporary spot, because I know in the future I do plan on getting rid of this stock style gas tank and doing a gas tank like the mini drift quad over here that sits above the frame. So whenever we do that, we'll actually mount up the intake like the mini drift quad where it actually sits on top of the engine there, but that'll be in the future. But this should at least get us by for the first test drive. So now we can officially toss some gas in this thing, start it up. I'm probably gonna have to do a little bit of tuning to it just to make sure it's all good with the new snorkel kit and straight pipe. But other than that, we can finally take this thing for its first test drive, test it out, see how it does, and maybe do a little bit of ripping on it, see what we can do, maybe break something and kind of just see if anything is not working right or just kind of out of line or just getting loose over time. So we'll figure it out, kind of work on this thing, dial it in a little bit, and then finally finish up this project. All right, so it's been a little bit now. I ended up pulling the quad outside and actually putting some gas in it and running it for a little bit. I ended up having to fight this carburetor a little bit, actually getting this thing tuned up because it did not like this new snorkel kit and header on there. So after playing with it, I finally got it to a point. So this is 2 jets later now. So I ended up starting with a 74 jet in it. And after trying to get that thing tuned, it was not liking it at all. I ended up putting it at 85. It was a little bit better, but just wasn't there. It still had like a weird dead spot whenever you actually were trying to give it gas at all with the choke open all the way. And then I finally just sucked it up, threw a 95 in there, and pulled a little bit of fuel out with the fuel adjustment screw on the side of the carb. Everything seems to be good so far, and it is just getting too late right now, and this thing is super loud with just a straight pipe on it. So I think I'm gonna hold off actually driving this thing around with you guys tomorrow. I did put it around my front yard just a little bit, just to actually try to get this thing tuned, and so far feels pretty good. I will say it is a little slow, but it definitely has some torque with it, especially with the torque converter and all that. So far everything seems to be holding up well. Brakes are working good so far, so we'll actually drive this thing around a little bit tomorrow and actually enjoy it. But I would like to actually start messing with the exhaust a little bit. So I want to see if I can try to get some pipe or if I can find something around here and actually start welding up exhaust for this thing, get it out here and put a muffler on it so we can quiet it down and actually rip on it a good bit tomorrow throughout my neighborhood instead of just kind of putting it around here and there and keeping the cops away from my house. So we'll see. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow when we're actually driving this thing around and see how she does. What's up, guys? So it's the next day again. Today, once I got home from work, I literally just ended up cracking down on this thing, getting to work on it, actually finishing up the exhaust and getting it all done, just so you guys ain't sitting here watching me cut up a couple pieces of pipe and weld it all together and then kind of just grind my welds down from there, because I ain't no welder, but I can make metal stick together. But so far, it's looking pretty good. Got the muffler sticking right outside the frame now, and I even got a little section to screw it in so I can pull it on and off if I want to. But all I did is really just add a piece of pipe on there. I had like about a 45-ish degree, kind of just snake it right around the shock and spring there, and it fits perfectly. It's super tight up in there. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it just right there and clear. So it's perfect and good to go, and it sounds a lot better. It's definitely a ton quieter now with the muffler on there. So now we can actually rip this thing around, enjoy it a little bit, and see what it can do. I haven't really drove it too much, so we'll kind of see how this thing drives and feel it out a little bit. I need to check a couple things, make sure nothing's rubbing, like the chain, and just make sure everything's all good to go and nothing's leaking. And actually have some fun with this thing. And then I would really like to take this thing out soon to like a local section near my house and actually see what I can do in some sand and maybe some mud and stuff, but we'll do that later. We gotta do some testing on it now around the neighborhood, just so if it breaks, we can fix it now instead of being out in the middle of nowhere. So let's get the head cam strapped up and take this thing out. Let's see what it can do and drive it around a little bit and feel her out. So we got the quad pushed outside. She's all ready to roll. Finally go for its really first maiden voyage. Test it all out, feel it out a little bit, kind of see if anything is gonna work right or break or so. I'm really just a little iffy on the chain setup because it seems just a little tight on this top section here. I already know I'm gonna need to brace up the exhaust eventually, just because after my mini drift quad over there, it already snapped one exhaust. I really don't feel like snapping this exhaust because it is definitely long and probably gonna snap over time, and it vibrates a little bit, but for right now, it'll do for the first test drive. It could definitely quiet it down than just a straight pipe. So let's get this thing started and let's see. I did let it warm up for a little bit, but it always a little tricky on the startup. Nope. All right, third time's the charm. Look at that. Called that shit. You guys can finally hear the exhaust sound now. Sounds pretty dang good. Not really too loud, but it's not really too quiet as well. This muffler is gutted from the inside, so it's basically just a casing of a muffler and not really resonating or doing much, but it's a lot better than straight pipe. Got some good intake noises from the intake, so back this thing out, probably rip it up and down the street a little bit, maybe over here too, but not really too much, just kind of feel it out, see what it can do. Maybe I'll do a top speed run, but we'll see. Try not to hit anything. Oh, all right. One thing, she does not have good turn radius at all. Some torque, that's for sure. That one wheel looks a little floppy, it's a little weird. And she definitely is a little tippy too, that is for sure. Oh boy, that was full throttle right there. Full throttle is not being that hot. Alright, we'll just cruise it around a little bit, feel it out. Alright, this thing is definitely fucking loud. It is really loud. It gets up on two wheels like a little too easily. Like you take a turn a little too sharp, it does not like it. Right. Got a car coming my way. I really want to do a top speed run on this thing. See what it can actually really do. Alright, oh no. Alright. There we go. We got that set up. Put that in my pocket. I think that's all we really need. Thing didn't feel like it was picking up any more than that. Let's see. Come on, baby. 30, okay. I'm actually pretty shocked on it because it doesn't really feel that fast, but it does its thing. It's got a good amount of torque, so you can tell, like, just flooring it right here. Like it like picks up the suspension a little bit and actually like puts the weight down. Pretty shocked on it. now I guess we can play around with it, see what it can kind of do. Definitely that mid-range is a little weird. The two wheels is definitely, it rides two wheels too easily. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm curious if I can ride a two wheeler. I could do it pretty good on the drift quad, but on this thing it might be a little weird with the big tires. Oh yeah, oh yeah, money, money, dude. All right, let's not hit anything. All right, real test. Can it wheelie? I know it doesn't really have that much torque, but I think with me standing on the back here, we can probably get this thing to hop up. Okay, okay. I will take that. I'll take that. Hold on, hold on. Dang. Let's turn this baby around. Let's see if we can get a little bit better. Nope. Woo! All right, that almost went a little too far. Little too much. Woo! Almost buzzed my ass on that. Alright, I want to do one more wheelie attempt and then just check her out, make sure everything's all good. Nope. She is not that good at wheelies, but it's alright. She's a good two-wheeler, that's for sure. Like, just like that. Oh, the brakes are really good. Better be though, they're brand new. Not too bad. Not bad. Not too shabby. You guys just saw we took the mini off-road quad out for a rip, and this thing did perfectly. Literally didn't have really any issues at all. Thing did pretty much everything I wanted it to. It is super good at standing up on two wheels and does some wheelies too. We definitely got to learn those a little bit more. I think maybe once we change the gearing up a little bit and actually get a little bit more low end torque, it should lift up the front no problem. But other than that, this thing is solid and just ready to rip. There is definitely a few things we need to finish up before we actually take it out to like middle of nowhere or stuff like that. I definitely want to brace up the exhaust just because I know that will crack over time. And then I also want to get the new gas tank set up for this thing. Instead of having the stock style gas tank, get a gas tank up here above the frame so then we can actually finish up the snorkel kit 100%, get that all bolted up completely. And then just looking over this thing, everything else seems to be good. Nothing else came loose or broke or anything. The only thing I did notice is the chain was running a little close to this bar here and just started stacking up some chain lube on there. So really not too bad. It's not contacting, so we should be good there. But there is a bolt missing on this chain tensioner there. So we'll have to get a new bolt on there. Nothing too crazy, but we'll do a good once over on this thing before we actually take it out. But there is a few things like getting new handlebars on it, just because I know these things are just a little tweaked, and I got some new grips for it as well. And then we can take this thing out, actually have some fun with it, see what we can break on it, and if it does break, fix it up, get it 100% ready to go, and then actually get this thing ready to tear it down completely for paint, because as you can tell, this thing is not the prettiest. So I'm a little kind of on edge of what colors I actually paint this thing. I have a couple ideas in mind, but I kind of want to get you guys' opinion as well. I don't want to paint it yellow because I already had the mini drift quad painted yellow, so I want to change this up a little bit. It just looks a little weird being the orange with the red motor. The orange is kind of cool, but with the red motor in there, it doesn't really hit, and I kind of want to keep the red on the motor because it kind of looks cool, and especially it is a Honda, so try to keep that around as much as possible. But let me know if you guys have any cool ideas for paint schemes on this thing, because I would love to hear it and kind of hear what you guys think. But other than that, pretty happy with how the off-road quad came out. It wasn't really too much. This is probably the only project I actually had put together before I took it for its first test drive and didn't have anything break apart or fall apart. So I'm pretty happy about that. So we're finally leveling up in this world. But other than that, I think this is gonna be it in today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hope you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and peace out.
Nope.
Woo! All right, that almost went a little too far.